definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, knowing the result. So I would look at Bruce Arena right now and say, hold on a minute. You don't want to change anything? The United States has more resources than any team in this region, Mexico included. And yet you can't get a result against Honduras, against Guatemala in the previous round, which everyone has forgotten about. The semifinal round of qualifying, semifinal round, the United States lost at Guatemala and had a must-win game March 29, 2016 in Columbus on our air. And yet every American sports fan in general just tunes in every 4 years. So they look at it and say, wait a minute, we're not in. But the reality is there were signs. There were legitimate signs. If you can't get a result at Trinidad, you have no business being in the World Cup. They don't deserve to be there. That is fact, not opinion. And yet, after the game, you want to sit there. In all due respect, Bruce Arena doesn't want to answer questions, and I get that. And quite honestly, it's not his decision to make either. He's just a head coach that was brought in because Jurgen Klinsmann couldn't get the job done. But I look at that, and I'm sitting there going, there's an arrogance in our sport that I don't understand. I'm okay with the arrogance in basketball, in baseball, and in football, and in hockey, because the best leagues in the world in those sports are in our country. It is the exact opposite in soccer. And yet the American attitude, there's an arrogance. How do we have an arrogance? How do we have an arrogance? I don't understand that. And I'm not saying anyone with an accent knows more soccer than we do. That's not what I'm getting at. Jay, that stat on the last time the United States missed a World Cup is remarkable. We didn't have a domestic league in our country, Sage, until 1996. But if we're really addressing the issue, you can't tell me there's no changes coming, because if there's no changes coming, then we all might as well go play in oncoming traffic, because that's got a better opportunity of having a different result than this. It is remarkable to me, the arrogance, and that's the hardest thing I'm having to come to grips with, and probably because I've only slept 90 minutes. But I'm sitting here saying, how do we have arrogance? I'm not saying we should have the answers today. I'm not, because there should be big changes. But my goodness, Sage, I don't know.
But you have been concerned for many months.
Yes, I have.
On this show, and going back to last November when they lost in Columbus, I mean, accountability is not a word that a lot of people like. However, that has to be brought into factor here, right?
Sage, it's a great word.
What has to happen, Taylor, in your mind, to prevent this from happening, to get back on track?
We have to have accountability. Sage, we are the only country in the world that those players and coaching staff will land on their home soil, as they say, and by tomorrow they'll be walking down the street. No one will really know them. There's no pressure. There's no accountability on these players. There's no accountability on the coaching staffs. There's no accountability. And people will argue, and I guarantee you my phone will be getting a bunch of texts saying, what are you talking about? Of course there's pressure. Pressure? Do you know what pressure is? When your club gets relegated in England or in Spain or in Germany and your town loses jobs. Your town that you grew up in and that you're playing for loses jobs. That's pressure. But those players and coaches, they'll land here. There's no accountability. Everybody will go, I'll get them next time. That's not progress.
We talked a bit before the show, and I want to ask, what are the women doing right that the men aren't doing?
Well, I'm concerned about the women, Jay. And I'm bringing this up because the women, what they've done better than the men is that they put more money into the sport than any other country, and they have their best athletes playing. But when we say, and normal sports people will say, we need our best athletes playing soccer, that is the weakest, most ignorant excuse, period. So if we have LeBron James yesterday, we get a result against Trinidad? Like, are we really having that discussion? We have more resources than any country in this region. Coaching needs to be better. Player development needs to be better. Women right now are the best team in the world. However, France and other teams are doing things much better tactically.
It's the reverse in the women's game.
100%.
Correct.
100%. Yeah. We need better coaching and player development. Ages 15 through 19 in our country, we are behind the 8 ball. And until we figure that out, you guys are going to be seeing me going through this every 15 to 20 years.